sola mia. Sambrondate. You'll know that the spaghetti is right when it's done and you throw it against the wall. Let me just see. Maybe this is done. Let's see. Right there. Oh, no, it's not done yet.
With over 100 film and television works to his credit, Dom DeLuise is a comic legend in Hollywood. His lovely wife, Carol, is an accomplished actress in her own right with over 22 stage, film, and television performances. In addition to their success in Hollywood, this dynamic duo celebrates more than 40 years of marriage together. Now, did you guys meet in summer stock?
I found her
Provincetown, Massachusetts.
42nd
It was a review. It was called Summer and Smirk.
So this was in New York, it wasn't?
No, it was in Cape Cod, Provincetown,
Okay, so
Massachusetts.
summer stock.
And Ruth Buzzy and I were the girls, and they said, the guy in it's going to be Dom DeLuise. And I said, who's Dom DeLuise? Don't you know Dom DeLuise? I said, no, everybody knew him, everybody. But I had never met him. So finally, and I thought, what a fun name. I like that name. And finally, when I met him, I said,
I was younger at the time.
Wait a minute, I want to say, this is who I want to spend my life with.
Oh my goodness!
At that time, when you first met him,
I just found out about this a few minutes ago.
I never met anybody like him. There is nobody.
What was there about Dom DeLuise?
He was fun. He was bigger than life. He wasn't afraid of it, and he was so honest and so real and so passionate and intense.
Intense, emotional.
Isn't that interesting? You know, when I saw her, I had just come from New York, and I'd taken a bus and a train and a trolley and a cab, and I had my suitcase, and I put it down, went down some steps, and there was a dark basement that was the nightclub under this hotel, and there was a pole in the middle of the stage, and there was a light, not unlike this one, shining, and she was singing, and I could see teeth and smiles, and I said, my God, it's like, she sounds like Judy Garland. I mean, she really... And then 2.5 years later, was that right? We were married?
You were married. Mm-hmm.
And I came to this studio where we are now, and I did a picture with Doris Day called The Glass Bottom Boat. And I asked Doris Day what I should do, and she said, oh, if you love her, marry her, do it, right? You know. So you can't say no to Doris Day. I mean, I did whatever she said. And then when Carol finally met her...
When I finally met Doris Day, I said, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good advice.
For giving my husband advice, marry that girl.
You started in theater.
Yes, I was in, first of all, I was in the high school of performing arts. Where
The first year ever.
It opened. It was an old school. Now it's
a
landmark. And I had to audition to get in.
So you went through the performing arts, high school of performing arts, got into theater pretty quickly, got into Broadway.
Well, off Broadway. I did Little Mary Sunshine for a year. My take-home pay was $37.50 a week. And
my
rent
a job
was,
and you were...
that's right, that was a job.
He was rich.
It was.
And I was there for like a year, and my rent was $40 a month. I was living off the fat of the land. It was great, you know. It was a cold water flat, so that the whole room was very, very cold. Actually, there was 2 rooms. I had a bedroom and a kind of a kitchen that had a bathtub in it. And the top of the bathtub had a piece of wood, and that was our work area, my work area. And then there was a little shower. It was a very, very, I baked a potato every morning at 6 o'clock because it was so cold. I didn't want the potato, but it was freezing. You had to light the oven. Cold water flat.
What would you say, Dom, would be the point that you looked around and the breakthrough?
I wanted very much to be noticed, and the New York Times said, Dom DeLuise in Half Past Wednesday, comic genius. Oh, and it was in the New York Times. I said, well, I mean, it must be true.
What about your first film?
My first film was something that I did in New York called Feel Safe with Sidney Lumet. And then I got a call from Doris Day, said, would you like to be in a movie called Glass Bottom Boat? And I was very
Which was
civil.
shot here on this lot.
Yes, right here on this lot.
Yeah, I should mention we're on what is now the Sony lot, but at that time it was the MGM lot.
Right.
MGM.
And we're in studio, we're on stage 9.
Right.
I'll
check it, but that film turned out to be
Glass Bottom Boat was
amazing.
Big film.
I got to see Doris Day every day, and then the first day I I made a mistake, and she said, "Oh no, just don't. It's just a film. Don't." I was a little upset. And then she said, "Why don't you have lunch in my trailer?" And I did. And she gave me a brownie. And she said, "I made these." I said, "You made?" So I took it home and cut it into 11 pieces and sent to everybody you know. This is a relic from Doris Day. It was very sweet to be, noticed by people who were kind and famous.
And you later were funny, too.
You later worked with Dean Martin.
Yeah,
12 years.
Yeah, I worked with Dean Martin for 12 years. I don't know if he noticed or not, but I mean, the point is that
He loved you.
I know he did. I was in a summer show, and then Dean Martin resumed his winter schedule, and I was on the show. And I was terrified. I mean, because I used to play hooky from school to watch him and Jerry Lewis. And my mouth was dry, and Greg Harrison said, "You want to do it again?" And I said, "Could I?" And he said, "Sure." So he told the audience to relax a little bit. And he took me into Dean's room. And Dean was sitting there with two of his daughters, and he said, "Come here." So he gave me a hug, and he knew I was scared. And I noticed on the table there was ham, gabagool, mozzarella, mustard, pickles, and on the side a big bag of rolls that were cut so you can make a sandwich. And I said, I could be friends with this guy. Do you know what I mean?
He's my kind of guy.
Yes, my goodness, I didn't know he had cold cuts on his on his coffee table. So then the relationship started, and I was there a lot.
12 years.
12 years. It was great.
The big thing for me was to get married and have children. But
She
I
wanted
always,
9 children. I did the best I
no,
can.
but not
Could.
after I had one.
I
That
did the
was
best I
enough.
could. She said, "Let's have 9 children." I said, "Fine, let's stop occasionally for lunch."